Oh, and thank you so much for joining me for some Saturday night crafting. Tonight I've got a really fun, simple, quick technique that you can do with multiple stamps. And I'm going to share with you how to do that in just a second. But I wanted to give you a quick little update as to why you haven't seen me for a couple of weeks. Firstly, you didn't see me because I was away for the weekend. I hung out with these amazing women last weekend. We had our crafty retreat away, went out for a couple meals, had a really great time, and I decided that I would focus on some crafting that I haven't done in years. So I made my own little book. So my friend Wendy taught me how to make my own album. This is an A4 album. It was such good fun. I still have yet to decorate it a bit more, add in some photos, but you can see there's about 10 pages in total inside the book, which is really fun. And then I also did some scrapbooking, which I have not done in probably 4 or 5 years. So I got tucked into that because all my friends are scrapbookers. Normally I sit there and I make cards and have fun with my products, but this time Wendy brought these little kits that she'd made up for us, and so I had to go and had a blast doing some scrapbooking. Now moving on to tonight, we are going to make some really fun easy cards. So this is, well, it can involve no dies. I'll show you how you can use a die towards the end, but this is easily done with no dies. If you've got post-it notes, that should work. Otherwise, I've got this mint tape from scrapbook.com. It is post-it note tape on a reel. I've got a wide one and I've got a thin one. But I've also got Gina K's Masking Magic, and I like the Masking Magic more than the post-it notes just because if I put too much ink on my stamp, it doesn't bleed through under my image underneath. You'll see it towards the end, my last card kind of shows you a little bit of that bleeding through. Now getting started, I've got two stamps. I got a big stamp and I got a smaller stamp, and I want the smaller stamp to go in the middle. So what I'm doing first is I'm going to measure out my stamp and work out how big it is, because that's the bit I'm going to mask first. So you can either use a big word stamp like I've got here, the happy birthday, or you can use a big flower stamp or a big balloon, whatever you've got in your stash. It can be a solid image, it can be an outline image, it doesn't really matter. I am using outline images today because I wanted to do a bit of colouring. So I'm going to take my scrap bit of Gina K Masking Magic and I'm going to cut it down to size. You can see my little measurement there, 6.5 by 1 centimeter is roughly how big my stamp is, and you'll see I didn't measure quite so well, or I didn't cut quite so well, but I end up with a little gap, and that's fine. You can just take your scrap bit again and chop off what you need. Just make sure that that bit of your stamping, that initial stamping, is covered. And a top tip would be to leave your stamp to dry for a few minutes. Maybe go to the loo, get a cup of tea or a glass of wine if it's Saturday night. And get that ready so that ink can absorb into the paper a bit, because otherwise when you lift up that tape you might take up some of that ink if it's not fully dry first. So I've got my image all masked off. Now I can come in with my bigger stamp. Now my bigger stamp, I am going to try and wiggle around a little bit, just make sure that I'm up and down, basically that it's gonna line up and not cover up that little dot. I don't remember what it's called, but the birthday, the little circle above the eye. I want to make sure that I don't lose that in my stamping, so I'm kind of making sure that my masked off area isn't going to block that little dot. That was the only thing that I was really worried about. I'm going to then go ahead and stamp my image over top of that. Having a stamp platform is really, really helpful for this, because if you do need to ink up a couple times, then this allows you to do that in the exact same spot. Now, that is not weird hair flopping about on my desk. I'm wearing a scarf, and every so often you can see that pop up in the screen, so I apologize. How cool does this look? That solid image stamp with the outline stamp looks like it was meant to be, but I can change up any one of those sentiments that I want, and I can use them in the middle. So this is my favorite card by a long way. Now, if you're enjoying tonight, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That's how I keep going with my YouTube channel. Google pays me, as well as some affiliate links which cost you nothing, but do make me a little bit of income. Sometimes those are in the description box below. And if you use them, that gives me a tiny bit of income as well. So please do like, share, and subscribe. The next one I'm going to do is using this really awesome, hilarious stamp set. Now, Dirty Gurty is part of Pretty Gets Gritty. It's actually Lynette's daughter who started up that part of the business, and she does some naughty stamps. So there are some that are quite offensive to some people, but they are absolutely hilarious. This stamp set here I love because it's not got any dirty words in it, but it is hilarious, and a lot of my friends would get a kick out of it. So I thought I was going to go for a really funny card for this one, but it is worth having a look on their website because honestly, they have some really cracking stamp sets and you can't get them anywhere else. I'm really impressed with the fact that they've kind of found this niche area in the market and have rolled with it. So again, I am starting out with the same thing. I have measured out my stamp. I'm going to go ahead and mask it off. I'm going to make sure that it is close and as tight to those words as I can. Because when we stamp our stamp over top of it, sometimes because that little bit of an area is a tiny bit higher than the rest of the cardstock, it shows around the edge a little bit. And you'll see what I mean when I zoom in a bit in a second. I think on the next card. Jumping all over the place, I apologize. But it is important to get as close as you can to those words. So here's my beautiful flower stamp that came in that set. Now you could leave it as is and leave it like this. However, I decided I wanted to outline it a bit more as if it meant to come with an outline. So it kind of popped a little bit more away from those flowers. Now I thought I would start with a gel roll pen and just see if I could get a nice even line and kind of match the sort of width of the line of the flowers. However, when you see me draw that line, it just doesn't pop enough. I also didn't really line up my ruler very well, so I decided to come in with a Sharpie, the good old Sharpie, a nice big thicker black permanent pen, and I went ahead and traced it. Now I wish I stopped here and left those two ends open because I thought that actually would look a lot better, but I did close them off. So you live and you learn, you kind of have a play and see what you like. These cards take seconds to make, so if you do make a mistake or your line goes a bit wonky, you can just start again and it's not going to take you very much time. Now I wanted to color them in and I've got my Arteza gel pens, so I thought I would do that with the pastel colors. I wanted to color them in but not with pencil crayons. I didn't want to blur any of my lines, and these are really fine lined gel pens, so they worked really well. So I finished my colouring off screen and I decided for this one, I know it's a one layer card and that's the whole point of this video, is to have a nice flat card that you could easily post. However, I thought I wanted to put a few sequins on and these are quite flat. So I went for some see-through clear sequins and decided to stick those all over my card just to add a little bit of shimmer. You could always take a glitter pen and go over those flowers as well with a glitter pen, and that would also make a pop. Now I've got my DIY pickup tool. It is a chopstick with some blue tack on the end. Works a treat. When the blue tack's not sticky anymore, I can ball it up, chuck it in the bin, or I can just stretch it and squish it, put it back on, and it's sticky again. So this piece of blue tack's been going for about 1.5 years, and I haven't had to change it, and it is a fantastic cheap DIY tool. I'm going to go ahead and stick all those sequins on. I put my glue down first, it dries nice and clear, and then I pop my sequins over top. And then I've got a little bit of shimmer, but I haven't really got any more thickness to my card. And here's where those funny stamps come in handy. So I stamp them on the inside and I'll write my message down below. I know exactly who this is going to. I don't need a big sentimental message. I think the card speaks for itself and I can't wait to send this to my friend. Now for my last one, this is where I'm going to take a set of dies. If you want to add a different shape to the middle, so you don't want to have just a standard straight line, maybe you've got some dies like this, or you've got some bunting dies and you haven't worked out what you should do with those, little banner dies. This is a great way to use that. So you're going to trace the inside, and yes, I do switch to my left hand because I feel like if I move that die, I wiggle every time. So I just decided to hold it where I was holding it and trace with the other hand. And I'm going to share with you how you can go ahead and use the same sort of technique, but you can do a different shape in the middle if you want a different shape. I know this isn't quite a different shape, but this was what I was on my desk. This is new in my stash, and I wanted to play with it and use it. So I've traced my image. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment in the middle. Now this is where it's key to let it dry for a little bit, because you can see here I'm going to stick this down, and this cardstock isn't the most absorbing. It was a watercolor cardstock. I had created this card first, and then I wanted to share with you how I created it, and so I'm just doing a quick little demo, but the proper full made card will come in a second. So you can see here I've lined it up. I then die cut out using my post-it note tape, get that shape out, and then I can go ahead and stamp over. Now here is where my ink pad is very juicy, and now you can see that it bleeds through the post-it note tape a little bit, which is why I like the Gina K masking tape. So if you were to look closer, it kind of looks a bit like peppery on the top because that ink is kind of sunk through a little bit. So that's the general gist of how you can use a die and get a different shape in the middle. When you're done, you can go ahead and color it in. Again, I used some glitter gel pens from Arteza. And if I had thought about it a bit more, you could actually extend those lines. You could take a pen and just kind of complete your image so it gets a bit closer. Because that post-it note tape is a little bit thicker than the card, you don't get right up close to that image when you've put your die cut piece of sticky down to stamp over top. So here's the Arteza. These are like the super gel pens. I have no idea if they even sell them anymore. They have a really nice wide ballpoint on the end, and the ink just flows so smoothly, much easier than the other gel pens that I've got. But that is my 3 cards for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. They are quick, they are easy, they're simple to do, but they are really effective, and you get to use up those stamps that you've got sitting in your stash and you don't know what to do with. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Can't wait to see you all again soon. I'll share updates of my office very soon with you. Take care. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.